I am going on an adventure in my small workshop, and the design I chose to start off with is going to be quite experimental. I'm going to use this walnut board. It's a nice piece of black walnut I was able to afford thanks to the sales I made from my previous video. And here's a closer look at the design. There are 8 birds in flight that will be connected through some squared blocks. I often think, after having finished a project, that I can alter a previous design since I felt like it ended up looking so nice. But there's something in me which always searches for new and interesting ideas instead. I do this because it makes sense to me, since the time I invest gives me both a sculpture and increases my skills. I just added some water to the selected part of wood, just to see which side had the best colors. One of the sides will face the wall, so I will try to have that side be the one with the least interesting wooden pattern. So what I see being the most challenging part of this carving is going to be not to mess up the crisp edges I will try to get on the blocks that holds the pack of bird together. I will have to practice my patience to achieve this, and also think twice before just carving away at the birds. I can at times work a little too fast, and afterwards notice that I chipped away too much wood. Often there is room to fix a mistake like this, but not always. I used my bandsaw to cut some dyed blocks of wood the past few months, and the sawdust that gathers below the bottom wheel creates this cool rainbow effect. As I just mentioned, all the 3 sculptures I made in my previous video sold, and it was a local buying them. I want to take a moment and express my gratitude towards that person. It really helps me to feel like I'm onto something with the path I have chosen to follow. This is probably a bit boring, but the plan I have for the funds I got from the sales is to save them for a workshop I plan to build. The one I work in now is honestly a great place to create in, but in the future I will buy some larger machines, and I'm kind of running out of space, as we can tell. It was not a plan I had in my mind before starting the carving to use a skill saw to cut lines perpendicular with the blocks, but it worked out really well. I fixed the blade at about a 2 cm depth, and I was able to make all the cuts I needed. Subscribing is a great way to support my craft, and if you are watching the video, you have already supported me a lot, so thank you very much for checking out my stuff. So there are 2 things that are going to be quite challenging for this carving, and that is to maintain these blocks completely straight, like not scratch them with anything, and not break off any wings or feathers. But I'll just be extra careful and patient, and hopefully I get to finish this without breaking it. Some of the footage I got was poorly lit, and because of that I decided to add more light to the workshop. It made me a very happy person, and now I have 7 times more light output. I should have done this a long time ago. I also have other small things in my life, where the reward for fixing them would outweigh the effort it takes by a lot. I find that making things convenient for myself is key for maintaining a smooth operation. And yeah, I know I sound like a hypocrite saying that, since my workshop clearly looks like a mess. So I expected this to happen. I did cut off too much wood on one of the corners. The solution is to make the block a little bit smaller. It will require a lot of work, so I was being more careful later into the project, so that I hopefully would not have to do something like this all over again. And now I was getting a little bit hyped about how the sculpture started to look. At this moment I felt like the vision I had for the design was a good one. Since the underside will be hidden up against the wall, I saw no reason not to keep the connection between the birds and the blocks very thick, just to reduce the chance of the sculpture ever breaking apart.
wood I used did not have a spectacular color, but it did have some nice character.
Well, let's just say I'm in shock that I didn't break off any wings during this project, and it isn't finished yet, so maybe I'll jinx myself now, but let's hope not. And now it is time to apply the oil.
Just quickly wanted to test it up against the wall. Sorry for partly blocking the shot. It will be interesting to see how it will look mounted when it's oiled. So I know wood moves a bit even when fully dried, so I didn't want to have the hangers too far apart from each other. I was pretty narrow-minded, thinking that I would go for making another sculpture with squared blocks to keep the theme of the video. But after having tried that idea with manta rays, I also experimented a little bit, which made me come up with having the manta rays connected through a wave instead. And this was a really hard puzzle for me. I had to use all my IQ points available to figure out which sheet of paper belonged where, but after frying my brains out, I finally managed to piece it together. Unfortunately, it does not come across how beautiful the grain structure of this walnut board is. There are some crotch figure in it, and basically that means kind of a twisted pattern that has formed between two branches due to tension. So I guess it's the diamond part of wood. All the boards I buy have defects in them, so I have to design around that and inspect the selected area carefully. And this was not my intention at all. But the two sculptures I'm creating in this video ended up being almost exactly the same length. This sculpture has a much darker color than the previous one. I will make sure to hang them together at the end of the video to show you how the same species of wood can be so different from each other. All bits clog up with time because of sap and other stuff getting stuck between the teeth or grain of them. An easy fix is to use a strong source of heat and burn away all the goo. A warning sign that it is time to clean the bits is that smoke starts to develop when I carve, since the bit does not cut properly anymore and is just rubbing up against the wood instead, creating friction. Sorry if that last sentence sounded not safe for work. The number one thing I'm focusing on this sculpture is creating fluid curves in the manta ray's wings, or flippity flapper floppers, or whatever you call them. So I had to consult Google about what you really call that part of manta rays, and to my surprise I was pretty close. According to Google they are called flippity flopper flappers. A tea break is never a bad thing to enjoy, especially with good company like this. I find it soothing to spend time close to animals. They are soon being moved to a large outdoor area to enjoy spring, summer and autumn. I will also spend most of my time outdoors now that the Norwegian winter is finally over.
So finally done carving and hand sanding this sculpture. This took a little bit less time than the previous sculpture, probably because of the wings in the previous ones. That was a lot of like small areas to hand sand.
So sorry if my content seemed repetitive, or well, to put it more correctly, sorry that my content is repetitive. I just find these wall art sculptures to be so much fun to create. It is also easier to handle the shipping logistics with these types of creations, which saves me a lot of energy I can use for coming up with more cool stuff to show you.
So as always, thank you so much to my patrons for the support. I will keep this brief, so the sculptures I made in this video will be added in my shop, link is below. And now it is time to assemble them and show you the final result. So thank you everyone for following me along, and I hope to see you in my next video. Take care!